Greetings, Richard Fulmer here, and welcome to another Richard's Rock Rambles. So we're carrying on with our prog journey, and today we're going to have a look at a band that haven't always been prog. In fact, they started out as a blues band, went into hard rock and then a bit of prog. They later went on into folk music, country music, country rock. They've done everything. They've done some pop rock. They've even done a synthesized album. I'm talking about Jethro Tull, a band that's been very close to my heart for many years. I've got quite a collection, but concentrating on the prog aspect of things, I've decided to talk about just 4 albums, so it's going to be short and sweet. There were other albums that did also feature elements of prog, but I think these 4 are the most proggy in their discography. So we're going to start off with an album from 1970. Probably their most famous album that everybody knows, who's even got a passing acquaintance with Jethro Tull, and that's Aqualung. This became a classic for the band with many great hits. This is the 40th anniversary special edition, so it's quite cool. It's got a whole, whoops, there goes the CD. Just grab that. That's a double disc. And yeah, there's a picture of the guys in the early days, and there's a really nice booklet that goes with it. So this would become a concept album of sorts. Well, they were accused of doing a concept album, although Ian Anderson said it was never really a concept album, but the press insisted that it was. I think only because there were some the subject matter was to do with religion, but not every track. In any case, you know, just the music press in the day, they wanted to pigeonhole everything, so they said, no, this is a concept album. Some of the great tracks on here: Aqualung, obviously that's the first, the title track, the really big hit, 6 minutes long. Cross-Eyed Mary, another big hit. Cheap Day Return, Mother Goose, Wandering Aloud, great track. Some really nice acoustic work on here as well. Up to Me, My God, which is probably my favorite track on the album. There's a great version on the Isle of Wight live DVD. Hymn 43, Slipstream, the great Locomotive Breath, which has been covered by quite a few people. In fact, our very own band from South Africa in the 70s, Rabbit, they did a version of Locomotive Breath. And Wind Up. And then the second disc here, there's some recordings from 1970 and 71. I think there's a couple of instrumentals, so there's some interesting stuff on the second disc. A great album, not completely prog rock, but there are definitely prog elements in this particular album, which would become an iconic Jethro Tull album. And I think, as I said, even somebody who's not really into their stuff would have this in their collection, you know, not the serious collector. So they were told that that was a concept album. They denied it, and the music press insisted, so that's all right. We shall release a concept album, and they released the concept albums to the mother of all concept albums, called Thick as a Brick, which actually just consists of 2 tracks. The track's Thick as a Brick 1 on the original vinyl, and on the second side, also the second track, also Thick as a Brick. And when this originally came out, it came with a newspaper which kind of folded out, which told you this whole story of this guy called Gerald Bostock, this whole fictional story in this place in the UK. It was very interesting. And this is the reissue 25th anniversary edition of Thick as a Brick. And what they did was they very nicely put the newspaper back in it. Not quite as big as the one on the vinyl, but you get the general idea. So that was quite cool. All sorts of strange stories. So yeah, the band were really on song with this. The title track starts off with an acoustic piece from Ian Anderson. Some amazing drumming from, I think at this stage it was still Clive Bunker, or was it Barrymore Barlow? I think it might have been Barrymore Barlow. John Evans on keyboards. And of course the great Martin Barr on guitar. A guy who to me doesn't get enough credit within Jethro Tull. You know, everybody knows Ian Anderson and what a great genius he was, and he is. He was pretty much Jethro Tull's poster boy, but you forget that a lot of the other guys in the band had a lot to offer, and Martin Barr definitely. He took over from Mick Abrams from the first album, which was just a blues album, as I said. And yeah, One to check out if you're looking for the proggy side of Jethro Tull. Thick as a brick. Then we move on to 1973, A Passion Play. A very English album. A lot of English humour. It may have gone over the heads of the Americans to some extent, and perhaps the rest of the world as well. You could hear Jethro Tull here. They were a band unlike any other. Very quirky, as I said, a lot of humour, but some incredible musicianship in this album. Took me a while to get into. It's basically also like a concept story. There's a piece on here called The Story of the Hare Who Lost His Spectacles. I think that's narrated by John Evans, which is really funny. Jeffrey Hammond on bass, John Evan on keyboards, Ian Anderson on vocals and flute. He actually plays soprano and sopranino saxophones, Martin Barr electric guitar, and Barry Bombalo on drums. Total time 45 minutes, so it's almost like one continuous passion play. That's the inside sleeve there. Yeah, as I said, it took me a while to get into. There's the lyrics and what have you. Some interesting reading. Then the last one I want to chat about is probably my favorite out of these four. I was actually listening to this yesterday, and yeah, it's a really great prog album. And the one I'm talking about is Minstrel in the Gallery, and this came out in 1975, I think. The title track, that's really quite proggy, different parts to it, quite a long track. Cold Wind to Valhalla, some great vocals from Ian Anderson. Black Satin Dancer, Requiem, One White Duck, and Baker Street Muse, which has got, I think, 4 different parts to it. This is a reissue, so there's some bonus tracks on here. Grace is still part of Minstrel in the Gallery. The bonus tracks are Summer Day Sands, which is a really great track. Kind of wonder how that wasn't able to fit on the original album. It was such a great track. Some really nice acoustic. There's some great acoustic work on this album. It's not just pure prog, but the acoustics are done in such a way that it's still interesting. You know, it's not just your standard sort of acoustic tracks. March the Mad Scientist, another great track. Pan Dance, a live version of Minstrel in the Gallery, because this is where this band really came into their own. It was on the live stuff. And also a live version of Cold Wind to Valhalla. So let's just see if there's anything I can show you. There's the guys, the minstrels in their gallery, standing at the top there, and there's all the instruments and stuff at the bottom, I think, or I'm not quite sure what that is. It looks like boxes and stuff. And there's Jeffrey Hammond, strange surname. He left after this album. This would be the last one that he played bass on. In fact, when he joined the band, he couldn't even play the bass. And if you listen to this, he must have had some serious teaching from old Ian Anderson, I think. There's all the lyrics and what have you. Also really interesting lyrics. Just overall a great album with some incredible musicianship, and you can see why they were... There's the guys over there, if you can see them there behind the writing. You can see why they were included in the prog rock genre. After this, they would go on to do a lot more sort of folky English style albums like Heavy Horses. That's got some really great prog moments in it. Songs from the Wood and Stormwatch, another favourite album of mine. So there we go, Jethro Tull. I'll be revisiting them again at a later stage, talking about some of the other albums, because they've done so many. Unfortunately, they're not around anymore. Ian Anderson called time on the band a few years back. He's gone on to do some solo stuff. He still does play Jethro Tull's music in his live concerts. Martin Barr, in fact, has gone on to do a solo album, quite a few solo albums. He released one recently, I think. Still plays live with his own band, which is great to see that he's still out there and doing his thing. So, yeah, one of my favourite bands. And what I liked about them was you couldn't pigeonhole them. You'd think you knew what they were doing, and the next album they would do a total 360 and they'd do something else. But whatever they did it well. I mean, even their blues stuff, the pop. And the funniest thing for me ever was when Jethro Tull won the Grammy for Best Heavy Metal Album. Not in your wildest dreams are Jethro Tull heavy metal. In any case, that just shows you how much the guys who do these things really know the music. And this was in a year when they were up against Metallica. yeah, it's still a standing joke. I mean, nevertheless, they got their Grammy. So you must actually try and find some DVDs from this area as well. There's a couple from 77 and 78 where they do a lot of prog stuff. There's quite a bit of stuff on YouTube actually. So next time on the prog rock journey, we're going to have a look at a band from the UK who are not around anymore, sadly. Also a really interesting band, and that's band's Porcupine Tree. So we'll check what they have to offer next time. Take it easy out there, take care, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.